All right, welcome back, Team Trek family. We're back from a quick break. I'm sure y'all can imagine, this is not the easiest thing to get through. And so, without further ado, we'll get back into your recovery.
Yes, thank you. Um, I just want to start off saying before I say this next part, because this is where my life got really, really dark. I am in a much, much better place, and I'm loving life. I'm loving connecting with people that are interested in healing. They're very open to healing and want to heal, and I hope this next part just kind of puts it out there that there's people that have similar thoughts. You know, I won't go too much into it, but being open about this, I feel like it's gonna help start peeling back some of the layers that we're gonna be talking about here shortly. But yeah, so at this point, I'm back at home trying to recover, not knowing if I'm gonna stay in the military or if I'm gonna get mad boarded out. The military I already made its decision. This was all in my head. I was on a lot of medication, a lot of pain medication, antidepressants, you name it. Um, and then I started doing what people do and what our community does. Started boozing heavily. Um, and any good medic would tell you that's not a good combination. Um, and it was a lot of struggles, they were happening. I'm not gonna be the same person. My kids still proud of me now that I'm not a soldier anymore. All this stuff was going in my head, and it went on for about. So this was 2020. I retired. I got medically retired on September 2022. So for about 2 years. Um, the doctors, they told me, hey, we've done every surgery we can. At this point, we can't do anything else. Your best option is to med board. I took it. Um, but transitioning, you know, a struggle that everybody goes through is what is the next thing? A lot of people like to say, what's the next mission? Um, what's my new purpose? And I wasn't finding it. It just wasn't working out. The medications was getting worse. Um, the alcohol was getting worse, and I was hurting the most important people in my life, which is my wife and kids. They were the ones suffering. Um, and then those starts coming in. Like, do I really need to be here? Like, am I doing more harm than good by being here? Like, I'm basically just a third child, another child from my wife to take care of. So that started lingering, and I wasn't as close. I was kind of fading away from the military and just from people. I was trying to isolate myself, and in public, I would put up the front. Something about us, we're great actors. The our profession taught us to live in secrecy everywhere we go, and we're kind of expected to come back and just turn it off. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. I had just lost a friend to suicide. This was a close friend. We were roommates for a while. Went through the Q course together. Same IODA. Came to Third Battalion together. So we were pretty close. And I lost him to that. And he's one of the smartest people I know. Like, you would never expect that from him. For somebody like that. And when I say we're good actors, one of the conversations that we had 2 3 weeks prior to that was, it was a good conversation, and actually we ended it where he was telling me that they might be trying for another kid. They were that in that place in their marriage that they were wanted another kid. So I never expected what was going to happen 3 weeks after that. So I started having those thoughts, and the the alcohol and the medication got so bad that at one point, like my wife says I stopped breathing. Like the paramedics got called to the house. Like the big thing. Like I was just like I was getting to that place that that I just wanted to numb everything, that I lost myself. Like I would become a different person, and I would never remember what happened. But when those nights happen and you just the next day you wake up and like what I something bad happened, and it's all the aftermath, and you can't remember what you're trying to apologize, but you can't remember what you're apologizing for. You know, that's and you always hear like people saying like people that they go down that route, they're just being selfish. They're just thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about others. But when you're in that dark place, you start kind of trying to justify it.
Right.
Trying to justify it. So my thought process was like, you know what? They're being selfish because they'll rather have me here suffering than just let me go in peace. Like um, I was born and I was raised Catholic, but I just did what I was told. I never really found. I was never really. I went to church every now and then, but I wasn't committed to the religion or spiritually. I was living the ODA life, the hard guy. Whatever people want to call it. Um, so I was in there spiritually, mentally. I was there physically, but I mean, I was a walking zombie, pill popper, whatever I could self medicate with. So I was there physically, but I wasn't really there, you know. Never smiling, never, just miserable all the time. Um, and so I started trying to justify, like, if I was to do this, like, they're being selfish, like, because they just want me here suffering when I don't want to be here. So one night, me and my wife got into it. I say me and my wife got into it, but it's probably just me. I started it, escalated it, and I worked myself up. I think I might have been just looking for a reason to do it. I was like, please, just anything, set me on shit so I could get it over with. You know, um, I racked my gun in front of my wife with my kids in the next room, dude. That's when I fucking hit rock bottom. My wife didn't know what to do. She ran out. She didn't know what to do. Um, so yeah, brothers, everybody goes through this, and we want to feel ashamed and guiltful, and that's okay. Let it fucking out. We all fucking go through this shit, but I want to share this just to show you this whole new toolbox that there was shown to me by my guardian angel, my wife. So after I got to that low point, and obviously didn't happen, um, but that was the closest I got. That was the closest I got, and after that I went to a kid's birthday party, which the guy that my ex roommate that is no longer here with us, it was his daughter's birthday, and seeing her, you know, just like something click, and I went back to February 8th. You know, that fear that somebody else is gonna be raising my kids, or I'm never gonna see that. I could never see this again. You know, so then those thoughts started coming in, and my wife, I'm so blessed to have her in my life. I would not be here if it wasn't for her, and along with other people. I just been fortunate enough to be, and I've said it before and I'll continue to say it again. I am not here because of me. I'm here because somehow I was blessed enough to be surrounded by people that didn't let me quit, you know? So my wife, my number one supporter, um, you know, she gave me like little sprinkles of like faith, you know, like, hey, you should read this. Hey, I've been looking into this. Because at that point, the medication was just like, it was being rotated. Like there was really no plan to get me off of it. You know, it was like 10 pills. It was 30 pills. Like 10 pills I actually needed, and 20, and the other 20 was just to counter the bad side effects, which all of them suicidal tendencies, you know.
Right.
Um, so I was like in that zombie stage, and just kind of getting by, and just my wife, you know, persistent as she is, she just kept giving me sprinkles, sprinkles, sprinkles. And shortly after that big incident, I finally accepted it. I was like, you know what? Like, I want to be here for my kids. Like, she started showing me all these videos about alternative medicine, you know, psychedelics. I was a athlete all my life growing up, and then even the short time I got involved with gangs, like yeah, I tried weed, but like it wasn't my thing. Like I didn't start smoking cigarettes till like I deployed my first deployment. You know, like when I was like 23, I think. So I was never really into to that kind of stuff, and I just kind of saw it as I guess the rest of the world kind of sees, that kind of stuff. So I never really bought into it, but she was like showing me stories of people that, they would share their story, and like you could connect. Like it was like you felt like they were talking about you. It was those kind of stories, and how much impact it had on their families. And it was like, yeah, it was like people come back and they don't drink anymore, they don't take medication, they're off all the opioids. So that part I wanted, but it was like it's too good to be true. Like there's no way, like this is gonna fix me. Everybody thinks that we're that guy. Like, yeah, it's not gonna work on me. Like same thing. That incident would never happen to me.
Which is the same guy that's been trying to take care of it himself the whole time and doesn't need help from anyone else.
Correct. Correct. We
Same
don't,
person you were before your wife convinced you.
and even when she kind of convinced me, we didn't really know like all the support that was out there, like all these nonprofits and stuff. So she kind of took it upon herself to get as much as information as she could, and she pulled all all the funds in one basket, and this was kind of our last chance. If we were gonna make it, this was like so. I know she prayed a lot. She prayed a lot, and even like 2 days prior, to me going, I had so this type of medicine, like it's not legal here in the States, so I had to travel to Mexico for it. And even to that point, like I've read some stuff, saw some videos, like I saw how people had changed, but it felt too good to be true. Um, 2 days prior, we got into this huge argument. Um, Same thing, like we're getting divorced. Like I don't want anything. I was ready to just give her everything and just leave and never come back. When my kind of what my father did to us. So I was at that point that like 2 days prior to me going.
Suicidal again?
I wouldn't say suicidal. It was just like I just wanted to be gone. I don't want to deal with it, and I was just like I'll go live in the woods and I'll just rot there and just let it happen. It was a big fight, and I was like, call him back, get your money back. I'm not going. She held out for those 2 days. Made sure I got on that plane, um, and I left. And what this treatment is it's in the psychedelic space, and they use two medicines, ibogaine and the 5-MeO DMT, along with other small ceremonies like a fire ceremony, temazcal, which is a sweat lodge.
Now, how much of that did you know when you got on that plane?
I just knew the process, and I just heard like testimonies from previous people, but I personally didn't know anybody that had been through it.
So it's a leap of faith.
So it was a leap of faith. Um, so when my wife kind of brought all this up, I started reaching out on the military community side. There's this one guy that I've never met in person. We kind of connected through other people, but he's been there every time I needed him, dude. Like, and I'm sure he doesn't mind sharing his name. Nick the Machine Lavery. Dude, that dude has talked me out of some bridges. Like,
Thank you,
man.
Nick.
So I've never met him in person. Leap of faith. Like, we got connected, everything's via phone, and like he's been there for me. And I talked to him about some of the stuff that was going on, and at the same time that my wife is doing all her thing, I'm connecting with Nick, and then he connects me with another solid guy, ex-Marine, Prime, and he lives out of California area, and so he kind of connected with him. He's been out for a few years, went through ceremonies as well, and it helped change him. So Nick obviously is not in that space. He's doing other stuff, but he kind of put me in touch with this person that I now consider a very good and close friend. I took a leap of faith, and he housed me. He received me in California. So when my wife put me on a plane, this dude that I've never met before, that I've talked to a handful of times because of another guy that I got connected from another guy, and he cleared his house. He's married with kids. Sent his family like a nice little weekend with the thing. So the treatment, you check in from Monday, check out Friday. So it's a 5-day treatment. So I'm flying in Sunday,
Okay.
the day prior. So he's like, I got you, bro. Picked me up at the airport, took me to his house, and just catered to my needs. He's like, dude, whatever you need. Like, never met. That's the first time we're meeting, dude. And
Is he another SF guy?
he was an ex Raider, Marine Raider.
Okay. Marshawk.
And he kind of had a similar. We connected a lot because he kind of had a similar incident in Afghanistan. Insider, he went through some stuff, but we kind of related on a lot of things, and it's all these little, just people that kept been in place in my path that just kept guiding me, dude. That just wouldn't let me just straight, just kept guiding me, and so I was with him the day prior to me checking in. He took me to the check-in spot, dropped me off. I got picked up, transported to Mexico. Checked in, and by this point, dude, it is horrible. It is horrible because the way this medicine interacts with your body, you can't, they don't want you to be on any medication or alcohol. So I kind of cut myself off like a week prior. So I was struggling. Like I was like barely like hanging in there. Like, I was like on 6, 7 days of like no medication or booze or nothing. And I was just like surviving. I was in survival mode.
Wow.
You know, I was like, it's like, this is where I'm going to end.
Your
This,
skin's
yeah.
crawling, everything. You
Yeah,
just
dude, I was like,
want to tear.
this is it. And, I got checked into the treatment. Um, and it's a very like it's a ceremony, but it's they have minimal uh medical staff like in the background for safety reasons, like paramedics. They have doctors, but it's they try to minimize their footprint during the ceremonies that you hardly notice that they're there. Um, so I went on there. I did the treatment. Um, took the medicine. Um, you want to talk about a little bit of the journey one?
Absolutely.
All right, so I won't go into like details like as far as like some of the stuff that I saw or experienced, just because I feel like people that are getting ready to go through something like this, I don't want to give them expectations. This is it's all tailored to what's happening to you. Um, so I took the medicine, and the medicine, it comes from Africa, and so in Africa they have these rituals, and they try to recreate some of those rituals during the treatment. Um, so the medicine, pretty much that first journey, um, kind of opened me up. It I was experiencing like stuff in the body, like it was just so painful. Like for me, it was physically painful. Like it sucked. It felt like I was reliving February 8th all over again. It felt like I kept getting run over, kept getting jumped in by gangs. I was laid out for like 3 days at one point, 2.5, 3 days. Just couldn't move, couldn't eat, just couldn't sleep, and during that whole time, I'm having like certain memories come up that I didn't realize I had. Um, a lot of feelings that were being suppressed. It was very very physical and spiritual. And then when I got to the 5-MeO part, the toad part, that took me back. A lot of people say that they experience the ego death with that medicine. That medicine took me back to where I spoke earlier. When those 4.5 days that I didn't know where I was, it was pitch black. That medicine took me back to that place. So I experienced a lot of spiritual relief. I felt like a lot of anger. That angry person just kind of just started letting go. Um, and so I came back from that journey. Like I said, 5 days. Check in Monday, check out Friday. Came back home that Friday. I flew all day Friday. Imagine, you flying from the West Coast to the East Coast. It's all day flying. And my wife, she greeted me, and like she, she said I was a completely different person. And when you talk to her, she'll be able to elaborate more on that. But I felt like something had changed. Like I felt lighter. Like I could. It was still too good to believe. It was like, so I was like, I'm gonna go home and see what happens. So I came home, and after I got out of the wheelchair, I was walking around with a robotic brace that kind of walked for me. But like after that first journey, like stuff started happening. Like all of a sudden, that craving for alcohol was gone. the craving to take any medication is gone. I was out of the military, so I had gotten my medical cannabis card. So I was only kind of doing cannabis at that time, but life was better, you know. Like I felt the fog, like I felt like there was a fog surrounded around me, and it was just brighter, you know. Like there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and one of the things that we spoke earlier was like about timing, when to do this, and I wanted to do it during the day, and one of the reasons is because when we're going through this stuff, we just isolate ourselves and put ourselves in dark places. We're in dark places, brother, and we're trying to shine the light on this. So during daytime, the light, dude, you know, I embrace the light, dude. Like I don't, you know, we used to operate in the darkness. I operate in the light now, brother. Like everything's out there in the open for people to see. But you know, my body started turning on, like, you know, movement below the knee started happening. Um, and at that point, like we need, like, what I like about the medicine space is there's no provider, no real provider that's gonna tell you you need to come back and do this, you need to do this. Like it's all like you did this, and it's all an option. They just present you options, and you kind of go with what you feel is gonna be best for you. So same thing. They're like, hey, whenever you're ready to come back, just let us know. So I left in a better place, but I knew I still had a lot of stuff to work through, physically and emotionally and spiritually. Um, but when I came back, I was off the booze, off the meds, and somehow I had a urge, a spiritual urge to be closer to God. Um, and so we started going to church every Sunday. Um, I got baptized a few months later. Um, became really close with my church. Um, and at the same time, we had connected with a lot of a couple nonprofits, some orgs. They were kind of in the space. They were helping fund some of these grants for veterans to go outside of the country that they serve to try to get better. Um, so we kind of submitted some of our applications. We submitted our application to one, and it was just kind of like a waiting game. And at the same time, we were just kind of like we were gonna start saving up for when the time came again, because we knew it was gonna come. Um, and 6 months later, it's when I get the call like, "Hey, it is your time, and to come back." And the foundation told me, "Hey, you know, we have this org that volunteer and wants to offer this grant to you so you could go get a treatment." And yeah, it was 6 months apart. And
So, so if I can stop you there before we get into the second session, right? I kind of want to get back into the first session just a little bit. So the first one, so you saved for, you paid for, you knew you needed it right now, and it was that leap of faith, that last resort, for being honest.
yep.
So you got into that. You said you started with, was it Ibogaine?
I began. Yep.
So Ibogaine, you said, sucked. Sounds like you were kind of reliving the worst parts of your life. Um, and how long did that last? Any idea?
For me, it was about 2.5 days. So I 2 days full maybe because we took it at night. So we took it in the late evening on Tuesday, and after like the second dose, I was in it. I was like, I was struggling, and
What was the setting while you were there?
it's kind of like a big wide room, and then they have like the per individual mattresses. They have a mirror, and then they have a heart monitor to monitor you, and then essentially there's a full medical staff in the background and just kind of watching you, your experience. They're playing the music in the background that goes along with the ritual that's conducted in Africa, and so it's all very like a ceremonial setting, um, and yeah, it begins at night, and then you kind of go into it, and I was into it all of Wednesday. I was barely able to move, and all the one of the providers kept telling me was he's like, just hang on. He's like, after you do the 5, you're gonna come back. And I was like, I don't fucking believe it, but okay. So when it came to do the 5 on Thursday, I volunteered. I was like, please. I was like, just let me go. I'm ready to just end it. I was like, let me go. And I took 2 doses of that. The first one was very rough. The second one is when I saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and I was overwhelmed with positive emotion. And that's when I felt like I did my breakthrough.
Okay, and obviously everyone's going to be different when they go through this treatment. Everyone's going to ultimately have different experiences along their journey. Hence the hesitation to really get into the specifics of what you experienced. Um, what would you tell somebody who is considering this? You like you said or alluded to on that first dose of you call it the
The
5.
5, yeah.
Um, you didn't have this breakthrough, but if you would have stopped there, right? So you basically have to go a certain distance. Like you have to go the distance once you get started. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. And one thing that is kind of encourage is a good word. It's you go into this with the intention of trying to better yourself, and then the second part is you have to learn to let go, because a lot of people, they have a skeleton or a closet full of skeletons, and they don't want to let go. They don't want to reopen some of that stuff, you
Mm.
know. Um, so the 5 kind of forces you to. I would kind of compare this to somebody that does a psych treatment, once a month or once a week for like a year, and the doctor gives out a plan. Hey, by 12 months, this is where we need to be. This is kind of like, I personally see it as like the fast track, like the cheat way. Like this is like when I hear like, hey, like these monks, they've been monks for like 60, 70 years, and they know how to meditate, and you hear stories about them transcending and stuff like that. Like I feel like this is a cheap way to do it, to get there. It gives you a glimpse of what being pure and good could bring to your life and to your family.
Mm.
It gives you that glimpse because we're not really living it all the time like some people do. So it gives you that glimpse, like, hey, like if you're better, if you change your life, like this is where you could be, or if you continue, this is where you're gonna end up. So all this stuff that I was suppressing and I didn't want to deal with, and even some memories that I didn't even know that I had suppressed when I was young, at a very young age, I didn't even know I had those memories. They came out, and it was like, no, I don't want to deal with that. And I was like, no, you're gonna deal with it right now.
Hmm.
And then when I finally accepted and let go, that's when I had the breakthrough. But I would say yes, I would recommend, like, if your intention is to really change and become a better person, it's everybody struggles with it, and you'll hear from a lot of testimonies that it's very hard letting go because you become vulnerable. Like nobody wants to feel shameful, embarrassed. Like everybody wants to be like, no, I'm a badass. And so like before I felt like I was being vulnerable and it wasn't good, but now I was like, hey, being vulnerable is good. Like I need to release some of that stuff that I've been holding on to. And that's kind of what I would tell people. If you're committed, if you're already there, just let it go. Let go.
Okay. So then, like you said, you knew it was getting time for to go back for a second sitting, and you'd reached out to some nonprofits. No idea how long it's going to take, but let's get it moving just in case. But you started saving. Nonprofit reached out and said, "We've got you. We found somebody that wants to sponsor you and send you again." Now, going back the second time, completely different. You know what you're going into. Is there still hesitation because, like you said, it sucked.
There, I wanted to go back, but I didn't want to. It's like going to ranger school. Like you do it once, but you don't want to do it again. You know what I mean? So, like I knew I 100%. I believed the benefits. I 100% believed that it was working. So like I knew I had to go back. It was just all that mental struggle was starting to come back. For some parts, and for some parts was like I've done it before. I think I know what to expect. But no, everything was a completely different experience. You do a sweat lodge the first day on Monday, just to kind of get ready for it. First time I cruised through it, I was in there the whole ceremony, an hour and some change. The second time, nah, I think I didn't make it to the end. Like I came out and I purged a little bit.
So the first time, let's just remind the audience, you were cold turkey on abusing alcohol, tons of pills in you, and you made it through the sweat lodge, no problem.
No problem.
Now, seemingly, you're going in somewhat clean. I think you've said
Yeah.
it's been.
It was at that point I was 6 months. Like the only thing I've used was cannabis and the medicine that provided. So I thought, maybe it's a little ego. I went in there with a little bit of ego, like, oh, I did this. I'm gonna cruise through it. Nah, it's like it showed me, it humbled me real quick. And that's one of the things that I forgot to mention about the first journey. Um, During the medicine time, there's a big purging. Purging happens, and that's a big part of um, letting go and essentially a rebirth. Like the first journey, like I spent purging, dude, and you get to a point that like nothing's coming out, but it's just like you're going through the motions, and even though nothing's coming out, like you feel something's coming out. You feel like the darkness. I felt. I should
Sounds like
say
an exorcism.
it's scary like that because
Right.
you just like and you just feel something like you don't see anything coming out, but you feel something's coming out. So purging is a big part of it. I purged for the first session, the first journey. I purged during ibogaine and the 5-meo, um, and then going back to the second journey, I purged after the sweat lodge, um, leading up to the medicine. Um, I did. I took it and it wasn't hitting me like I was anticipating the same thing that happened the first time, and it was a completely different experience. Maybe because uh, I believe that I was in a much better place. My intentions were maybe a little bit clearer, um, and I respect it. I have so much respect for the medicine. Um, it's all natural, as natural as possible, and I believe that it was put on this earth for us to use the right way. So I had so much more respect for the medicine, and very rare you hear stories of people that don't get affected by the medication, that they'll take the medication, have a good night's sleep, wake up like nothing happened, and everything happened in the background. Like they'll go to smoke a cigarette, and it's like the worst thing they've ever smoked, and kick off the habit. So in a way, I kind of prayed and hoped and asked the medicine if it wanted to take it easy on me, and just like, hey, you're gonna go to sleep because you haven't slept in a while. You're gonna go to sleep, and that's it. I was okay with that too. Like I knew all the stuff I saw the first time, and I was like, I'll be okay not seeing anything and just going to sleep. So I had that kind of hope, but it didn't. It didn't let me sleep. But it did take away a lot of the pain, physical pain, and I really only felt like the nausea and like the need to vomit, and I did purge a few times during my second journey with ibogaine, but it was very different. It was like what it showed me. Essentially, it showed me that how it's healing me physically and mentally, and it was just essentially, hey, like I felt like it. I felt that kind of intuition, like, hey, you're doing the right thing. Like you're staying clean. You're even though those some of those temptations keep coming back because like I said before, this is not the cure. This was not the cure to my addiction or my alcohol abuse. It wasn't the cure. It was just a tool that I was able to use, and I followed through with it to the end, where I'm still following through with it to the end. And there's still struggles that are going to come back, temptations, but it's a lot easier because it's like a reset, you know? Like some people also call it like the red pill from the matrix, because you take it and you're still you. Um like maybe you're not as, it changes people like in a way that you're still you, like, but just like my shirt says, not what we were. Like when I was a military guy, I was, even though I was supposed to be a father and a husband, ODA operator took priority in everything. So really, I was a SF guy. I was in multitasking. Like I was an SF guy, then a dad, then a husband. Um, so what the medicine did for me, it broke me down into Lego pieces. Everything that happened to me, like I said, going back to some of the trauma that I lived in, or some of the early experiences that I had growing up with the gangs, or some of the stuff that happened with my father, I realized that it all had to happen to me, because without one thing, the other one doesn't happen. February 8th is a horrible day in my life, but if it wasn't for the military, I would have never met my wife and had my kids, who I love the most,
That's right.
And without the gangs or the cop coming approaching me and me, challenging myself, which I love that. I've never thought about it that way, which I'm gonna take that from you. The cop challenging me and pushing me to better myself. Um, with all that stuff, I would have never joined the military. Without hanging out with gangbangers playing Call of Duty Medal of Honor, whatever it was, and then having that moment, I probably would have never joined. So I was broken down. The Lego masterpiece that I was at that time was all shattered, and I was able to put myself back together. So I'm still me, but I was like, hey man, that memory is still there, but boom, I don't need to put it back in my body. Like I'm I smile a lot more. I like to joke around more. I tell everybody I love them. Um, but if something was to happen, I got that. I got that SF guy in QRF, dude. Like I'm still, like that person is still there. It's just not being prioritized in my life. Um, so I had experienced all that after the first journey. So the second journey, it was more focused, and the medicine just was, we interacted more, as far as it showed me how it was healing me. And then the powerful part was that, because I had already been through that transformation portion and I didn't see it the first time, the group that I was there with, it was a very tight group. Those guys were awesome. I was able to see their transformation, how they showed up and how they left. Completely different people. And I was just like, is that what happened to me the first time? And so that's how I got introduced. So I'm new to the space. I've missed early. We learned. I kind of got into it in April. Um, so I'm still new to this, but everything that I'm sharing, dude, like I got from somebody else. It's a tool from somebody else, and the the facility that provides this treatment. One of the facilities that provides this treatment, the one that I went through specifically, one of the things they say that This is not a fix, it's a tool. But I like the way they put it. You're going on your azimuth, and all this is doing is giving you like a 5 degree correction. You know what I mean? So like you could take that 5 degree correction, but over time, dude, it's gonna be a whole nother path. And so I got that out of it, and then like the I'll share this part about one of my journeys is the rear view mirror. What does that mean? Um, it's okay to look at what's behind you, what you went through, but if you look at that rear view mirror too long, dude, you're gonna crash and burn. So it's okay to look back every now and then, but you gotta stay focused on what's ahead of you and becoming a better person. And that's kind of what I wanted to share, man. I just want to share, like, I hit some very low points in my life. There was a lot of trauma with the military, outside the military. Um, but this tool, this psychedelic space, dude, it did something for me that no doctor, no pill that was given to me here in the States, could do. I've done more recovery in the last 6 months than I've done in the last 3 years, dude. Like, how that happened, we don't know. We don't know how exactly the medicine works. There's not enough research. There's one big study that just concluded, is getting ready to come out, um, that people could probably look up. It's Stanford ran a study. Um, 30 soft personnel with TBIs. They went through the whole scans. Yep, you got TBI, no activity in the brain. This part, boom, 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 went down. Did the treatment. Came back for follow-on exams. Boom, new pathways, activity where there was no activity, and the doctors can't explain it. So now this is like out there, and a lot of, because of this, is getting published in a couple journals. Uh, and Now the news are starting to put it, veterans, have to go outside the United States to seek treatment for PTSD, depression. And so it's very interesting where this is going. It's definitely more open now. Um, and I just somebody, I was fortunate enough to have people around me that guided me. So I'm here to share my experience and tell people that it's okay, because you don't necessarily need to be at a very low point. One of the things that this medicine taught me, it's all about timing. When you need to do it, or when people are ready. And a lot of the struggles that we go through, it's finding a new purpose, after the military. You get out, you leave the team life, and everybody's like, what's my next purpose? What do I want to do? And there's a lot of people that are helping with, placing dudes in good companies or good professions. But what I'm realizing, and a lot of people are helped me to come to the same realization, is that how are you gonna get to your next mission if you're still carrying all this stuff from the military? And through some of the research that's come out, that you know um, I've heard stories of solid dudes, like people that you never think would do something like this, and you wonder how that happened. Like, he was always like number one guy, like he was the go to guy. Like, why would somebody like that commit that act? And I believe it's not because they're a weak person, or they're just going through a very hard time in their life. And what this medicine has been able to show through some of the research is, sometimes it's just what's happening up here, dude. Those neural pathways, there, all those TBIs, that just stuff is not connecting. So you can't really process. People maybe can't process those thoughts, like, hey, if I commit this, it's gonna lead to this. So it's not that they're not the same person they were. It's just they're hurt. They have those invisible wounds that we can't see. And what this medicine does is connecting, is rehealing your body. And for me, apart from healing my body, I got off the medication. I started seeing clear, and crazy how I got off all that medication and booze, and all those tendencies kind of went away. And all I want to do is live and love and help people. It's crazy, So that's what I want to tell people. Like, yes, we do need to help each other find the next mission, whatever it is. But what a good group that where we should target is that transition phase. Like, hey, you're leaving the military. Like, even if psychedelics is not for you, there's something else than taking a pill or talking to a doctor for the rest of your life. Because that's what I want to tell people. If you're tired of talking to a doctor that or multiple doctors that just give you the same book answer, and you're tired of taking a pill and you're trying to self-medicate, well, try something else. Look at this alternative medicine. It's all natural. Um, you don't have to take it all the time. Some people just do one treatment and they're good. It's all life dependent, trauma dependent. And I think the more we're more open about this, we're gonna start peeling back those layers. And what I mean by that is that, we tend to go along with, and even if we're like the leader of the group, we tend to go along with the group. So if I'm in a team and we always have our guard up, their armor up, those walls up, it works because we're in an operational team and we have to go do some shit. So for that time, it works. But when you're out and you're still kind of surrounding, like, you want to be better, or you want to change your life, change some things in your life, let go of some bad habits, but you're still surrounded by those people, it might be a little bit harder. But you know those people that have that armor all the way up, you just got to find a crack to get to them, to reach them. But by the layers, I mean by the group, is like, let's say for example, me and you are we don't want to change our ways, but somebody gets through to you, and now I see the difference in you. So now I start letting my guard down because I trust you, and boom, I open myself up to this new thing that's out there. And it's just, the domino effect. Now the guy that's standing behind me on the stack, he's like, whoa, those two benefited from it. I was like, all right, I'll do a little bit, or at least I'm open to hear about it. And that's what I mean. The more we spread the word, the more we tell people of the medicine that's available, and just to show them an option that pill popping and booze there's a way out.
And I like how you ended that. It's another option, right? So the whole thing, right? As we start finding finding suicide as our way out, right? More often than not, it's not because we're being selfish. It's we see ourselves as the problem. We're the reason that they're unhappy or this is happening. So it becomes very simple. Just remove the problem. And what we're trying to do here with Team Trek is show all of our brothers and sisters, everybody out there, that there are other options, right? Like we can figure something out. Just stay around, just reach out, account for each other. Like you said, find those little chinks in the armor and show that there is hope out there, because if we don't do something, as we see it right now, they're saying 17 a day, right, on average. So those numbers are ebbs and flows, and I think a lot of things are not taken into account when they do pull those numbers. But if we don't do something, who's going to, right? We've illuminated the fact that there's a problem, and now it's for us to identify different avenues. Like you said, maybe this alternative medicine isn't for everybody, right? But it's an option for people that it is right for. And together we'll just continue to find these avenues and these options to recover, do that transition, and be able to find significance in something else beyond our time in service, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think you said it beautifully. And Yeah, dude, it's hard to explain, but do you really need an explanation if life is getting better? You know, why can't, you know, if you go to the casino and you gamble and you win, do you really ask like, okay, really, what are the odds that I was gonna win this much at this time? Like, no, you accept it because you're gaining from it. So it's the same thing. Um, and if people, you know, put it their all to be at the top of their career field, to be the best they could be. If they gave it their all, why should this be any different? You're giving it your all because for your life and the life of your loved ones. So it's gonna be hard, and like what we do is not easy in life. Why should this be any different? Recovery, it's even more important than everything else we've done, and it's gonna be hard, but don't just don't get discouraged, man. Like everybody goes through it. Like even though like people don't want to talk about it openly, which is a struggle on the active duty side, because there's clearance and other stuff that it might affect them. But if we could start targeting them as soon as they're like, hey man, you're getting out, boom, start at least planting that seed. Like, hey, before you commit to all these pills, because that's what the VA recommends. Like, hey, look at this option, and there's people in Congress that are pushing this issue and trying to make it accessible for veterans here in the States. But it's gonna be, I think we're a long ways from it, and we could go into details on why that is. But
Well, one of the other things I wanted to key in on before we do is, once you opened yourself to options that were out there, you said you started finding other opportunities, and I think that's a very key statement, right? There are opportunities out there everywhere, and a lot of times we're afraid to take those opportunities, or we don't see them as opportunities. But once your wife convinced you, and you took that opportunity to go, like we said, leap of faith, right? You accepted it. You saw it as very helpful. You started viewing things differently. You didn't start just focusing on the negativity. You started focusing on positivity, things that were around you that were being positive. You recognized the negative things just like we all do, and you started setting those aside as you were rebuilding yourself. But you also, because you were in a new way of thinking, new space, if you'd call it that, you started recognizing positive opportunities all around you, whether that was through faith or other veteran organizations, nonprofits. You just started recognizing that there is a lot out there to help guys like you, like myself. I think that's important to recognize, right? It's a lot of times when we start feeling like we're all alone and there's nothing out there, and we want to go into our isolation space, that's when we need to be there for each other. That's when we need to be able to account for each other. Nobody necessarily does better in isolation. Some of us feel like we get a lot done when we're in our isolation space, but really you've got to be reaching out, and you got to let people know that you're there and you're thinking about them, and we've got to pull them back up.
and with
Find
that and with that, I like that because if you think about it, we do that ourselves, in a way. For example, a lot of people hunt, you know, or let's talk about pack animals, how they hunt in packs. What do? They wait for that one in the herd that gets isolated, and that's when they attack. And I feel like that's what happens to us spiritually. When we go into those dark isolation places, we're kind of opening ourselves up for that spiritual attack. Those those bad whispers, if you want to call them that, they come into your head like, hey, do you really want to be here? It's when you isolate yourself, that's when the enemy attacks you. That's when all that stuff comes in. So the way you put it out, I 100% agree with it. We gotta keep reaching out to each other.
And we've talked about that spirituality as a pillar, right? A recognized pillar, spiritual, growth in someone, right? And I don't think we talk about it enough, though, right? Being good spiritually is just as important, if not more important, than being able to go out and run through your PT test and max your PT test or carry a rucksack. Like having that space, that solid foundation there is another one that's really important. That if you think back to when you got to basic training, right? How was that? Whether you went to church or not, when you got to basic training, what was it? Everybody went to church. You weren't forced. It was an option. Stay here and clean the barracks or go to, Catholic masses at this time, and everybody went to church. There was very few that didn't, right? So it was recognized that early on in your military career that, your spiritual growth is important. So I think we should definitely spend some more time focusing
No,
on that part of it.
and I'm glad you brought that out because current culture doesn't help with that. All that do is just kind of alienate it. It's just like, hey, that was the thing of the past. But yeah, this the spiritual part. I call it little sprinkles. I was fortunate to have some people that kind of reeled me back into faith. My wife, um, there was the guy that helped do the modifications in my house. He's a youth pastor, and then the big one that they kind of made started aligning the stars for me was Jaguar, the guy that didn't make it back on February 8th. He was one of the most spiritually persons that I've ever met. He always had a Bible with him. He was always like referencing it. And at that time, you just kind of blow it off like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, and he always stuck to it. Whether it was good or bad, he stuck to it. And you would never, that's the last guy you expect to go down. Is like if there is a God, that's who you would think he'll be protecting. Um, Whatever the reasons was that everything happened the way it did, um, he kind of helped plant that seed to reel me back into faith. And for some of my surgeries, I did end up going back to the San Antonio area to the Brick Army Medical Center over there, and he's from San Antonio. He's buried there, so I got to see him, visit him whenever I could. His parents were still there, are still there. His dad is a pastor at his church. He would always come bring me some food and talk, spend time with me. Sometimes we just kind of hung out. Um, to the point that I started, whenever I was able to, I would go to church and hear him preach. So, those little sprinkles that just happened, and then the medicine just kind of opened me up to like, hey, like that wasn't a coincidence, dude. Like, good or bad, you had to go through it to be a better version of yourself, or to have the option to change and become the better version of yourself, or you could still be the same you, and this is where you're gonna end up. But the leap of faith, man, I feel like I've taken so many, and I'm blessed that so far has been working out. But faith is huge in this because you know you could go into it without having any faith. It might work, it might not, but the moment you commit it, you commit yourself, it could change, dude. So it's interesting.
I think we're in we're going to get pretty deep into it when we bring your wife on in this next segment. And I think she's going to be able to sum a lot of these things up for us and help us understand her perspective and her side of it. And I think our viewers are really going to be looking forward to that. So we'll, if you're okay with it, we'll go ahead and put a pause in it here. We'll end this session now. And when we come back, we'll sit down with your wife, and then we'll do a final with the two of you together, talking about where you're at in time and space now, how the family's doing, and where we're looking to go with this from here.
That'd be great.
All right, brother. Well, hey, from Team Trek family, welcome into the family. Thank you from all of us. I know this is going to make a difference for a ton of people. And it's just the beginning of the journey with the Trek, right? So thank you, Marty.
Hey, brother, many blessings to you and everything you're doing here, brother. And yeah, dude, we're gonna help change lives, brother.
Love you, man.